So these adjustments in Photoshop are to make your image perfect, because that's our objective when using Photoshop, is to take an image that looks okay and make it the best that it can be. So remember, with Photoshop, it's always less is more. So we're going to open some pictures from the desktop. Okay, so let's start with an image that needs to be cropped and adjusted here. So this image is too dark, right? So the very first thing we do on any image that we work with is what? Crop it. Okay, so I'm going to leave this way because I think the crop is okay. So I'm going to leave it like it is. Then the next thing we're going to do is we go into, on our layers palette, we go to an adjustment layer and we do what do we do next? Levels. So I'm going to go into levels and I'm going to adjust the levels. Whoops, got to get the adjustment layer. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I see that this is all light, there's no pixels here, so if I move this over, it's going to lighten up that whole image automatically. So that makes it a whole lot better right away, doesn't it? So that one looks good when I do that. So that makes it look a lot better. Now the next one I want to do is brightness and contrast. So I'm going to come in here and do my brightness and contrast ones. And so I'm going to brighten it up a little bit more so we can see more detail. But I don't want to lose detail up in the top here. So I'm going to just keep the contrast and all of that a little bit lighter by the brightness. Now, there's other things we can do to make this image better. One of the things we can do is called dodging and burning. And if you come down here about a little past halfway, you see a hand or a little stick with a circle on the end of it. Those are the tools that we use in the darkroom. We use our hand to burn in the darkroom, and we use a little stick with a disc on the end of it to dodge in the darkroom. And that's how come these symbols are used in Photoshop. Okay, so we care about dodging and burning. Dodging will lighten your image, selective parts of your image, and burning darkens selected parts of your image. Okay? So I want right now to lighten up this area that's kind of dark here, because the objective of this shot was to make it look like the T-Rex is chasing the person. So I'm going to come in and use the dodging tool. Now you see that I have a circle. That means that it's a brush. Anytime any of the tools come out with a circle, it means it's a brush. So the objective of this brush is to lighten up this area. So I want it to be fairly large. Now the way that I make my brushes bigger or smaller is by using the left and right bracket keys. The left bracket key makes it smaller. The right bracket key makes it bigger. Left and right bracket keys. Left and right bracket keys. So the left one makes it smaller, the right one makes it bigger. Now I can come over to my tool palette here, my brush palette here, and I could adjust the size by this slider, but every time I do that I have to adjust and check out the size. Come over, check out the size. Come over, check out the size. So it's much easier to use the left and right brackets. Okay? So I'm going to use the right bracket to make it fairly large because I want to lighten up this area. You'll notice here that we have an exposure. Usually it's 50% is the default. It will automatically start at 50%. That's way too much to start with. Keep it around 15% when you're working with it because you build it up. You build up what you're dodging or burning. So you use this just like you're brushing in here. So I'm going to lighten up this area by brushing over it a couple times. So I'm going to hold the left mouse key down, and I want to make sure I'm on that background layer though, because otherwise it's not going to do anything. And I'm going to left mouse, whoops, that's burning. We don't want to burn it, we want to dodge it. So I'm going to come in and left mouse key, hold it down while I'm brushing along. And it just lightens up that area down there. Do you see how it's lightening that all up there? If we look at our history palette and we go back a few steps, we can see where we started and where we ended up. So it's a lot lighter just in that area. And then maybe up here it's a little bit light, so let's darken that up. So I'm going to come into the burning tool. I'm going to make that brush a little smaller than the area I need. Make sure it's around 15%, and I'm going to brush it up here to burn it to make it a little bit darker. So all I did was just make that a little bit darker so it's not quite looking so obvious. So the attention is more down here than at the top. Okay? So now that looks fairly good. But now this area is too light. So I'm going to burn in this area, this little highlight in the corner here, make my brush a little smaller by using the left bracket key. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to selectively darken this area, okay? Just this area, so that it more matches the area in front, okay, or behind it here. So it's not so obvious. So if we look before with that, and we come back, you can see the difference here in what I've done with that corner, okay? So now the attention is not so much on that corner, which is a much lighter area, it's now on the person, okay? So that's dodging and burning. I'm going to show you a couple more examples of that, but you can see that. And then the other thing I want to show you is called content-aware fill. So on the left toolbar here, the third one down, if you hover over it, these are selection tools. This is the lasso selection tool. So it shows a little rope like a lasso. So if I come over and I click on that, I see that I'm going to, in order to get to one part of my image, let me stop for a second and tell you this. In order to get one part of my image enlarged, how do I make my picture bigger? Control plus. So Control plus makes it bigger, but I want to get to that corner. The way to get to that corner is to hold your space bar down, and then it turns into a hand. Once it turns into a hand, you just hold the left mouse down, and you can move it along, okay, to get to that corner. Of course I say that, and then it doesn't. Sorry. So here we're getting to this corner here. We want to just work on this one corner over here. Okay? So this is the corner that I want, and I moved it over to get to this corner. Okay? So now I want to select that corner. So I have the lasso here, and it has a little point on it. If you look at it, you can see the little point on it. That shows you where it's going to start. So I'm going to circle around that corner. And now whenever you use any of the selection tools, you have to go back to where you started. And it will let you know when you've done that, because it'll create what we call marching ants. So these are all marching ants now. And that means this area is selected. You can see those little white wavy lines kind of moving around, right? So that means that area is selected. If I right-click in the middle of it and I go down to Fill, then I go to Content Aware. Now that's what is popping up because that's what I use last. It may come up foreground or background color, but if it is, use the click down button and get to Content Aware. Keep it at 100%, and then you click OK. And what it's going to do is try to fill in this area with what it sees around here. And it made it go away. You see how effective that is? So now, to deselect an area, to get those marching ants away, it's Control D. Control D for deselect. Control D for deselect an area. So now, to make the image smaller, Control minus to look at it, and you'll see now that I got rid of that area that was kind of, that's what my eye kept going to, is that little area. So if I go back and I show you where it started and where we ended up, there's before, there's the lasso around it, there's the fill, and there's the deselect. So it looks, you see how it matches even the lines on that concrete and tries to match it perfectly, which is really great. So that's the content aware fill. The other thing I want you to know about is the clone stamp. And the clone stamp gets rid of small little areas in your picture that you want to get rid of, okay? It looks like a rubber stamp. It's about a little less than halfway down, and if you hover over it, it says Clone Stamp Tool. So I'm going to click that. So what I want to do, again, it's a brush, so I'm going to make it slightly larger than the area I want to get rid of, okay? And what it does is it takes pixels selected from one area and moves them into another area. So holding the Alt key down, I'm going to select pixels from this area. So then I left mouse click, and I come back over, and then I let go of the Alt, and I just left mouse click, and it covered up that little spot. You see how cool that is? So let's go back and show you that. Okay? So I'm going to hold the Alt key down, select an area that's close by where I'm going to, what I want to cover up, because I don't want to, if I cover it up with blue, then it's going to look terrible, right? So I don't want to do that. I want to keep it as close to what's in that area as possible. Left mouse click, grab that area, come over and cover it up. Now, I'm at 100% opacity to cover it up completely, and that's what it just did. I can also come down here if I think something's distracting down here, like you see this little piece of like trash or dust there, or rubbish. I'm going to use Alt, click over to this side, and I'm going to click over that to get rid of that. Okay? Maybe I want to get rid of some of these other little things that look like rubbish. I can just click on there, come over, and get rid of it. Okay? So you can get rid of little trashy things. I don't want you to get rid of big giant things, just little trashy things. So that is how we do that.